name is Nicolò. It's the first time for me in Denmark, so actually pretty excited to be here. I'm not much of a public speaker, honestly, but a couple months ago I was speaking with Francesca. We've been spending the last 6 years or so in platform engineering space and discussing, and we were saying, we start understanding some things, so maybe it's worth to share them with the community. Let's try to build a talk on this and present it, even though it's a bit scary. So we did, and we got accepted. Thank you for having here. In the end, Francesca got ill, so I'm here alone. This was supposed to be a conversation, even more scary now, but I'll try to manage.
You're doing great!
Thank you. So, apart from that, I am a writer. So basically, my work is creating and distributing content, knowledge that can help companies, software engineering organizations in building, rolling out, scaling their internal developer platforms. And today I'm here with a talk that says platform engineering is not about tech. Thinking about it, I'm probably one of the few non-engineers in this room. We're defending the thesis that the latest buzz in tech is not a tech thing in the end. So there are a number of things that this can go wrong, but let's see. What are we doing here at a tech conference? As I mentioned, I've been working in platform engineering since 2016, which is definitely not enough to call myself an expert of anything, but is quite relatively a long time if you consider that the CNCF Foundation was just founded in December 2015. Kubernetes comes a little bit early, but so we're all not so long in this. So we tried to share what we saw over these years. And just to have an understanding of the audience, I see a lot of talks about platforms, platform engineering, and platform something at KubeCon last week, at this conference, etc. Wanted to understand, I presume you're all pretty familiar with the topic being you here, but how many of you, for example, are familiar with the concept of IDPs? Okay. And how many of you are somehow involved in designing, building, or managing a platform? Okay. How many of you actually have the job title of platform engineer or platform something? Okay. And the rest of you maybe were just too lazy to update the LinkedIn profile. No, but I see at least, and this may be good, there are still some people in the room that are not platform engineers yet, and that makes sense actually. But okay, let's get back to the scope of this talk. And I'll skip all the definitions since there was another talk earlier giving quite a good framework, I think, for understanding, and you all seem pretty familiar, but feel free to ask any questions and interrupt at any moment. So the motive of this talk is that basically platforms fail a lot. Okay, this is a prediction from Gartner, which is kind of a little bit dark if we look at it, and it says that by 2025, over 70% of platforms will, okay, maybe not fail entirely, but fail to achieve, to deliver the desired outcomes. And probably, and somehow I believe we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg in this, because most of organizations, most of companies are still in the early phases of their platform journey, or are still in pilot maybe. So I hope that does not put you any pressure. But we'll also come to the nice part of this. So I want to focus a little bit on what is the scope of platforms. And Abby Bankser, who's one of the leads of the CNCF working group on platforms, recently said that platforms are a way to provide something as a service. And I think this is a pretty good definition, because if you think about it, what does it mean? It means platforms are a way to share capabilities. In software engineering organizations, We have engineering teams whose goal is to deliver business value through applications. And often, different applications share commonalities, maybe lifecycle tools, maybe infrastructure, maybe dependencies, maybe processes. So this in the end means that part of their everyday work is somehow tied to part of someone else's work. And this may be because of hard technical requirement, it may be because of regulation, it may be because of convenience, but in the essence, the fact is that in modern applications, modern distributed architectures, especially at enterprise scale, we have this type of dependencies, shared capabilities, and these can easily become points of friction, points of bottlenecks, let's say. So platforms aim at solving this issue, not by eliminating these interrelations, these correlations, these dependencies, but streamlining this, automating them when it's possible, and in essence, facilitating the way different applications, but especially different teams, different people, can collaborate. So we can say, if we do like the giraffe and we look at this from a little bit broader perspective, that platforms are a common space where people share value. And I think here we have the main aspects, main words that will help us in this conversation. People, common space, share. So why will platform fail? I can share what we have seen on our customers, on the teams we supported, on the engineering organizations we saw, the mistakes we've made so far along the way, and something that we're pretty convinced of is that none of these platforms fail because of technology. Almost never, honestly. Tech is not an issue, generally. Nonetheless, most of the conversation we see around platform engineering is about technology. Is about technology choice, technology implementation, is about making tools work together. Even in the early stages of a platform, I guess you're familiar with this meme. Earlier, before we were speaking about the complication of design script. And of course, these are very important choices. These are questions you want to answer. You need to give an answer to make your platform work. But this is not where your platform will eventually fail. So where will it fail? Collaboration is, for me, the crucial part. If we quote the Agile Manifesto, we're speaking about people and interactions. And here is where eventually some platforms may fail. This morning, someone was sharing culture is the hardest thing in IT. And I definitely agree with that take. You cannot just simply implement it like that. Also, the Conway Law was mentioned this morning. I think you're familiar with this as well, probably. It states that any organization that designs a system will produce a design whose structure is a copy of the organization's communication structure. In the end, it means that architecture of software systems are remarkably similar to the organization of the development team that built this architecture. And we can also look this from a reverse perspective. So having a target architecture in mind, we can understand and simplify the implementation of the planned design we want to achieve in our target architecture. So basically, what I'm trying to say, and is a concept that I'm sure on paper we're all very familiar with, but it doesn't often happen by designing organizations, is that by making evolved technologies and by introducing new technologies and by innovating on the technology side, we must consider and design and plan and implement the impact also on the people side and on the organization side. We tend to focus, I think, mostly on the first part of the job rather than on the second. And here come the most common pitfalls. We were looking at a number of studies we had from ourselves, from market literature, etc. And we highlighted 8 common pitfalls. So probably now you're saying, how often do you fail? Do you ever even make it right sometime? And yes, that happens. We will see that later, but the hard things first. So the first pitfall is when there is not a clear mission for the platform. The need for something that may simplify, may make things better in terms of software delivery is there and is clear. But what exactly that something should be, how it should be done, how broader its scope, what the goals, what the KPIs, is not always so clear, is somehow fuzzy. This is very common and very understandable, especially in organizations that are facing complex, multiple challenges at the same time. But again, the consequences of these are pretty obvious, I think, as well, so I will not dig too much into deep. The second pitfall is that the platform initiative may lack political capital that can help it to scale and to expand the scope to the entirety of the software engineering organization, thus incrementing exponentially the benefit it brings. The platform may start tactically as an MVP, which can actually be a very good approach, but often, so it may be the case that the platform team is a recently assembled team, is a new team, is a team that has been put together for this new initiative, maybe comprising some new hires, but it has not yet achieved anything as a team in the organization. So it has not that broad consensus that may generate mandate to other teams to collaborate, to actually use and try the platform. And so you will need to also do the work of convincing them of the convenience of doing so, which is another job. Third is that the platform does not match developers' expectations. And this may be because of, let me say, lack of insufficient analysis in the first place, but it may be more often probably in miscommunicating the purpose of the platform. So maybe generating a too high expectation of what that platform would enable in the first place, and thus creating disappointment. Not because what the platform is delivering is not helpful per se. The fourth point is internal competition. Honestly, we see this a lot. And if we're honest, in engineering teams, we tend to think that we know best, or at least that we prefer our things to be done our own way. But even if we take away, let me say, bad faith competition, just good faith competition itself is something very common. In large organizations, you may have different teams building different developer tools, and the scope of these tools easily may overlap. Some functionalities may overlap, some capabilities may overlap, and so this will generate confusion and competition and conflict. The fifth is the balance between the trade-offs. A very common trade-off, very discussed in this space, is the trade-off between freedom and standardization. Another, I think as much important, is the trade-off between continuous innovation and stability to ensure that you are able to achieve the maturity of a product in terms of an internal product market fit that enables you really to roll out and scale to your whole organization. 6, this is an aspect that is, seems pretty transparent every time we start a new initiative, but in the end, somehow it still ends up to be underestimated. In a dynamic scenario, such as the cloud-native environment, we want to avoid that our current platform becomes tomorrow's legacy, and this inevitably comes at a high cost. And this cost may simply not be viable and sustainable in the long term for companies whose business in the end is not engineering platforms. And here we arrive at the things that I think can really kill our platform. On the first place, the lack of communication skills to build consensus around your platform, to build understanding of what your platform may do, to get people involved, to have people feel that they are part of the journey, try it, give feedback, and generate the improvement, the buy-in. You want to create a credible scenario, a powerful narrative that lets people understand that you are enabling them to greater outcomes through providing them a platform. And the eighth is the hidden cost of change management. Launching a platform means impacting a variety of stakeholders in your organizations, may even be external teams collaborating in your organization, and is impacting the way they perform their daily work. And this is so hard because it means you are trying to change people's habits. And usually there are very good reasons for why people form habits. It's because they make them effective at what they're doing. So this is a very difficult thing to do. And this is typically not what a platform engineering team is prepared for. It's not one of the core skills of a platform engineering team, generating change management. So I think in the end, we can say that when we talk about platforms and we look at our platform engineering teams, we can say that in most cases, they have great engineering talent, amazing skills, great understanding of architecture, design, and they are great at building software. But they are often less skilled, less equipped in some critical aspects that are crucial in the end to launch successfully any digital product. So UX, UI design, marketing, product management, product ownership. There is this famous Reddit thread. I don't know how many of you are familiar with. We've spent months building this platform. Devs hate it. Help me understand why. Poor guy, you may think. Actually, I think it's a very instructive conversation. If you go there and read, as usual, our community is wonderful and is giving a lot of feedback and sharing a lot of stories. And you say, poor guy, but it's not a single case. You will see from the thread. And it's a common fact because of probably the challenges we just saw. So I guess we can say in the end that the key point is that we are really fully focused on our platform. We think about it every day and night, and we want to make it great and amazing. But the rest of the people out there, okay, maybe this is a bit extreme, nobody cares, but typically have other goals and are mostly focused on other stuff. And so to make them care, we need to put them in a position where they understand they are enabled to greater outcomes and that the platform is something that they actually get to love. It's not a problem of building a platform, it's a problem of rolling it out successfully to a large organization, making it love it, so it's clearly not simply a technology problem, it's a people and interactions problem as well. So understood this, where do we go from here? To the good part, because I hope you did not lost faith that platforms can succeed. There are a number of challenges, but actually we see a lot of very powerful success stories. Even if you look at the CNCF blog, you can find very, very instructive experiences, very motivating. And when platforms have success, the reward is really great. But of course, understanding the challenges can help prevent, hopefully, some pitfalls. So I selected 3 success stories. They're quite different among them and different approaches. So I hope nearly everyone in this room can relate at least to one of the stories. So we'll have a small organization with an approach and larger ones and different angles. So the first story I want to share with you is of a small company, relatively small company, a digital native startup in the engineering sector. Is not a large engineering population, around 45 engineers at the time, I think. And they started with an approach that I believe you're all aware of the minimum viable product. So not focusing on delivering from point 0, point 1, the full capabilities of our platform, but adopting a Pareto efficient approach, start from the single use case that delivers the most value and grow from there. And the first case they selected was the interrelated needs of two different engineering teams in the organization. One was building a data product, let me say the single view of the customer, simplifying it. And the second one was building a part of an application, the reserved area of the company that needed to consume this digital product, this data product. And the important thing for me is that starting from this initial case, but focusing on the combined need of two teams, and so what one team needed to be able to reuse the capabilities of the other and the interrelations, apart from, of course, the specific engineering needs of the single team, they were able to have a very strong initial success case and then increase the adoption of the platform over time. So started focusing on the collaboration part from the beginning. Second story is a very different organization, is a US manufacturer, over 500 engineers, and is a completely different story because for them, the idea of creating a common platform was one of the pillars of a 3-year industrial plan, so high commitment of the board, high mandate, budget, political capital. And honestly, all these things can help for sure, but I don't believe you get people to use a developer tool just by mandate and by brute force. This is never a success story generally. What really strikes me here is that a very important voice in the budget, let me say something, they dedicated a lot of effort, time, resources, is that they invested in an internal academy, training path, body of knowledge to generate the understanding of what they were doing with this platform on how the different areas of the company, of the engineering organization could leverage this platform, how they could contribute in an inner sourcing approach to make the platform better, and so make the people understand what you're doing and make them part of it as well in the process, not just after. And this has been the key for the success in this different story. And the third story I want to share is, okay, I called it build your first platform, then throw it away, which I understand it may sound a little bit stupid as a name, as an approach in itself, but empirically, honestly, we see this work relatively well in a number of cases. For example, here I brought the story of a large multinational system integrator that understood at a certain point that over time they were building some capabilities on different customers, different industries, different areas of the world that could be somehow generalized, abstracted, considered reusable, productized, and they started putting this together as part of a common platform. And in the end, at a certain point, they did an analysis and they decided mostly that they need to restart and redesign what they have to make it more efficient and integrated as a product. And so why throw it away? So I understand that you understand the needs over time, but why you want to throw it away at a certain point is because something we were seeing earlier about the concept of thinnest viable platform. And the concept of thinnest viable platform is not just about building the smallest platform you can build in the first moment, but is about keeping it thin consistently over time. In the long term, and ensure you have an asset that is maintainable by your organization and commensured to the size and to the budget of your organization. So maintainability is the key, and keeping a platform thin, maybe stick to the original core and avoid adding unnecessary things, but it may also be throwing away some of the original things and building new things, because especially in our cloud-native scenario, technologies are evolving faster and tend to standardize and commoditize over time. So some things that you may have built may not be 5 years after such a distinctive value, such a strategic priority, such a unique part of your proposition that you want actually to continue building, improving, and maintaining yourself. So somehow, this could be a cheat sheet question in continuously analyzing your platform and understanding what parts do we really need to keep building and maintaining ourselves, and what parts we want to cut off, outsource, refactor, impart totally to deliver the desired business outcomes. Okay, summarizing. I hope I'm good on time. Not sure. There's a number of very other important things we could discuss. So, concept of platform as a product, privileging the developer experience over other aspects, the continuous attention to metrics and measurement. But we have just 30 minutes, so we keep it concise. So I want to share the takeaways, but first some credits, because a large part of these concepts are not just from our experience, but from people we meet, people we speak to, people who write, the community who continuously brings up good stuff and continues to share. So summarizing, the goal of platform engineering, you know very well, and we can simplify this, providing a better, seamless self-service developer experience to streamline software delivery. The first point I would like to take away is that working on the technology side, you always want also to work on the people and interactions. The second point I would like you to consider is that this will mean impacting people's habits, and you need to be prepared for this because it's a really, really, really hard thing to do. The third part, is that collaboration issue, communication between people is the single most critical point of failure for platform endeavors in our experience. And that the real challenge is not building the platform itself, but ensuring that people actually use it and love it. So I think in terms of slide and pitch, we're at the end. I just want to share that later on there will be another interesting talk on this platform engineering stuff. Out of time.
No. We have time for questions as well.
Okay, great. That's great. So hopefully that can move the conversation forward. And of course, as I was mentioning, one of my first times doing this, so any feedback would be really appreciated. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? Just raise your hands and I will come running with the mic. Was that a question?
I think one of the points that you have mentioned was that platforms often fail to meet the developers' expectations. And I'm curious because in the summary, in the third point, I think you're underlining my question in a way, is how often is that the platform fails to meet the developer expectations rather than it just changes the way of working, which means, yeah, nobody likes change, especially in the habits. So how often is one or another, and what are some of the maybe insights that you can do some steps beforehand to mitigate it as much as possible, or how can you solve once it's already there, right?
Okay, thank you for your question. So I think there are two angles to this. Definitely the two aspects you were mentioning are related between them. So the first angle on failing user expectations is sometimes we get the mandate to start solving some issues because it's simply not sustainable. So let's start building some automation right away. And we start without doing much, honestly, UX design phase, so not analysis on what the engineering population may need, but maybe solving something that we see as urgent from our biased point of view, but we have not validated actually as a thesis. And so this is a part of it. Another part of it is the communication part. So the expectations are created by the narrative we roll out about what we're doing. And at the beginning, we will be very enthusiastic, and we will want to convince everybody that what we're doing is great. And so we will pitch them with, like, let me say, let's have a dream together, okay, about this. But what we will be delivering in the first place probably will be just a very small portion of that dream. So if we built a huge expectation, yes, we got their attention, we got them to come and see what we were doing in the first place, but then, even if what we built was good, was not matching that expectation that we created ourselves. And so this is because it's how we work as humans. When the experience does not match the promise, we feel disappointed, and we tend to move a little bit away from that, or have some barriers, or tend to think that, okay, they are promising 100, but they're just delivering 10, so some lose of trust. So working carefully on the communication of the initiative as well internally, I think, is a very important part. I don't know if that answered your question.
We have one question here as well.
So we have the challenge that our platform is very well adopted. People are happy about it, but naturally that grows the scope of what people expect of us. But it's very difficult to communicate to management the value that we provide because they don't write the code. They don't struggle with all these things. How can you communicate to management that, well, our scope grew, like, we need more people. We need more people to build this nice stuff because everybody is happy about the things we do.
Okay, so I think you have a very good starting point because your people are using and loving your platform. So now you need to give visibility of that. So you want to build that storytelling. And so the first thing probably is to start with the voice of users and let them speak and create the business case for you. Because of course, you making the business case for yourself and going to ask more budget, more mandate will be always perceived as a biased point of view. You're trying to defend your garden, your project, your initiative, your place of power. But having others build that business case for you, testimonying, so build credible testimonials of what they are achieving thanks to your platform and what would be the cost of doing that without your platform. That can be very powerful in terms also, let me say, emotional, psychological aspect of the narrative, generating commitment. The other thing is the numbers and the measure. And this is typically also something that will be required by the board. So when you create a digital product, you typically set KPIs for success. So how much will impact? What is the business outcome that we are providing? Is it a reduction of tickets for operations? Is it that quicker debugging or quicker delivery in production? Or now we're able to do rollback? Or now we're able to share this type of capabilities in and creating a layer of data fabric that enables these new digital business initiatives? It may depend on what your platform tries to solve, but the KPIs and the metrics for measuring is inherent part of the design of the platform, and is a strong argument, let me say, factual argument that you can always put on the table. So the emotional testimonial and the numeric KPI.
All right, I think we are out of time now, so let's give Nicolò a big round of applause.
Thank you very much.